What's good everyone, it's your boy, your dig, 4 eyes, 2Gs here, and today we're here to talk about Lil Pump. No introduction is needed, we're here to talk about his quote-unquote fall off. Now, in my opinion, anyone who says Lil Pump has fallen off and is finished as binary, unequivocal statements is being extremely disingenuous and isn't giving you the full picture. And that's what I want to give you today, so let's get into it.
Okay, I just made a quick dub, got her lips done, I was busting out the eardrums. Okay, slipped, I done dripped up from the hip hop, I don't care about the fake. Fake, down a cake, came up, you talk about.
So there's two ways to break it down. It begins with you and me, the American rap focused audience, where Lil Pump has undoubtedly begun to fall off and fall out of touch with. But then there is a Latin American audience with people like Brazil, Portugal, etc., which I'll refer to as the quote-unquote Latin audience for lack of a better term, where Pump is thriving, which is why it's important to lay this discussion from two different perspectives and back them up with actual statistics. So let's start with the bad news. Pump has fallen out of touch with people like you and me who gave him the platform and ear to begin with. His radio plays in the last 12 months within the US has decreased over 50%. His YouTube views in the US are also down over 2.5% in the last 30 days, which might not sound like much, but when you're talking about only 30 days and millions upon millions of views, it's a significant drop. And on top of this, he's lost over 7% of his Spotify listeners in the last 12 months. Furthermore, Harvard Dropout didn't make any noise. It performed poorly first week, none of the new singles like Butterfly Doors, Racks on Racks, Be Like Me got any sort of traction, and the only certified song was the already released mega hit I Love It, which practically saved the album from being a complete flop and almost single-handedly made it go gold. On top of this, the album was received extremely poorly. It feels like the same sentiment that can be applied to Smoke Perp can be applied to Lil Pump, specifically his rapping sound, again, not the Latin dancehallish sound. I'm talking about the rapping sound that gave him his rise in 2016 and 17. Fast forward to 2019 and 2020 is not only less interesting, but it feels like he's making the same music again and again, and people just aren't gravitating to that sound in the way they used to. For example, let me know in the comments, do you guys feel like this newer Lil Pump sound has gotten old and you prefer his older stuff, or do you actually like the newer stuff? Let me know. But I believe this is a primary reason behind the poor performance of the album in the US market. As I said, his Spotify numbers are down, his airplay in the US is tanking, and if you look online at the comments from rap fans, people aren't feeling him like the way they used to. Undoubtedly, all signs that point to him beginning to fall off within the US. And before we go on, a quick shout out to 2013-year-old from my Instagram, really cool graphic designer and he does a lot of dope stuff. Make sure to check him out. Also make sure to follow your boy on Instagram at your dig, you guys know what to do. Also a reminder about my Cardi and Travis merch tees, link in the description to cop if you're interested. Also make sure to like, subscribe and turn on notifications, but let's keep going. Okay, so that's the bad news, but here is the good news, and the news that people deliberately don't give you because they want to portray this Lil Pump is finished narrative. Lil Pump's label has smartly been able to pivot his sound and align him with these Latin American artists to introduce into that market, and it's working wonders. His airplay in Portugal, Spain, and Brazil is up over 35%, 45%, and over 350% over the last 12 months, which is impressive. Also, his YouTube views in places like this within the last 30 days alone have seen big gains, with places like Spain, Peru, and Mexico seeing upwards of 50%, 35%, and 15% rises respectively. And with this sound connecting with these audiences in the way it has helped Lil Pump essentially level off his significant drop within the US market with the increase in these markets, so the numbers kinda even out and don't look as bad as they are. If it wasn't for this Latin American market, trust me, his overall numbers would look far worse and the discussion would be much more grim. So that right there are the literal facts and statistics. Now for my personal interpretation and how I feel. For me personally, I'm happy for Pump's success in the Latin market, but I could care less about that style of music from him. I found out about Pump in 2015 and 2016 with bangers like Movin' and D Rose, and those are the songs I still play to this day. And I feel like you guys watching this video are the same as me. So whilst Lil Pump is stuck in the mindset of, oh, it's 2016, let me do some outrageous Instagram stunts like posing in a sports bra, which we would have all laughed at and found funny back then, now it looks desperate, corny, and a reach for attention. I don't pretend to be a musical genius, so I don't know what Pump needs to do specifically in terms of a sound, but he needs to find a way to come up with something different that is refreshing, but still familiar enough to connect with us, because there's definitely still a lane for his music, but what he's doing right now isn't it, and the numbers in the US show that he's losing touch with that market that gave him his start to begin with. And whilst he could just continue to focus on that Latin market and thrive over there, that's cool, but ultimately he's losing relevance in the US, and that's what gave him his start. And to people like you and me, it's led to this general consensus of him falling off, and if he doesn't find a way to bounce back with this audience, this trend is only going to continue and get worse. But That's all from me today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort into getting the facts and figures for you guys. So if you guys could like, subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on Instagram at YourDig, that would be much appreciated. Also, there are more videos of mine on screen right now. Make sure to check them out if you haven't.